over 45 years, the Himalayan Institute has been proud to be a member-driven organization. Our mission flows from the wisdom of the Himalayan tradition and is brought to life by our members' commitment to live our mission purpose, to inspire, educate, and empower all who seek to experience their full potential. Mission members are the stewards of our tradition. They form the thread that holds our global community of seekers together and provide the foundation upon which the wisdom of the Himalayan masters can continue to thrive. By becoming a mission member, you directly support our core mission programs and global humanitarian projects. These projects serve impoverished communities, providing health, education, and sustainable employment opportunities. In addition, mission members play a direct role in ensuring the continuation of our core educational mission by supporting our faculty of world-class teachers. Mission membership is an invitation to put your spiritual values into action by supporting our shared commitment to service while deepening your study and practice in the Himalayan tradition. Becoming a mission member gives you access to the Wisdom Library, an authentic source of online learning resources including yoga classes, workshops, live streams, and much more. Mission membership is yoga in action. We invite you to inherit the wisdom of a living tradition. Become a mission member today.
The quest for peace and clarity in the midst of a fast-paced, often chaotic world can sometimes feel like an impossible challenge. If you feel overwhelmed and overworked by the 21st century lifestyle, then you're not alone. The uncertain state of the world can strip us of vitality and vigor. Through persistent effort, a supportive community, and the right guidance, we can learn to redefine our circumstances, build new habits, and emerge stronger than before. Empower yourself.
Are you ready to take your personal practice and teaching skills to the next level? Then immerse yourself in a life-changing course of study at the Himalayan Institute's international headquarters located in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. Turn to the most trusted and authoritative source in in-depth training, inspiration, and support by participating in our 200-hour and 500-hour RYT teacher training programs.
The thing that instantly amazed me about Himalayan Institute was the depth and breadth of the knowledge of the staff here. Our teachers are world class.
The Institute helps to bring back the soul to the practice, not only through what they're teaching us with the tradition, but the dedication of the teachers and the atmosphere itself.
When you study at the Himalayan Institute, you gain access to the wisdom and teachings of an unbroken lineage of Himalayan masters and receive the personal attention, guidance, and first-hand knowledge of our world-class faculty.
The faculty is really helpful, and they're very approachable. They're very generous with information and experience, and they're very welcoming in a way that you will feel like they're your friends and they're there for you. So yeah, I love them.
Nestled in the foothills of the Pocono Mountains, our lush 400-acre campus offers you the opportunity to step away from the demands of daily life and focus completely on deepening your understanding of yoga in a spiritually supportive environment.
It's also a retreat setting, so it's nice that everything you need is right here. There's no commuting, so you can stay healthy throughout the whole time. Doesn't hurt that the food is amazing. And they're on this great site where you can go hiking during your breaks.
Participating in the Himalayan Institute's teacher training program will be one of the most transformative experiences of your spiritual journey. Listen to more of what our graduates have to say.
The experience at the Institute is very different because it's based in philosophy and it's based in a spiritual tradition.
The food, the vegetarian meals, option to have vegan and gluten-free, somebody making it for you. The atmosphere is conducive to relaxing, and every time I come here, I get rebalanced again.
When you do this training, you don't just learn about teaching more things, but you learn so much more by looking inwards, and that's what I've been learning every single day in this training, and I really love it.
I definitely chose HI because of the community, both the master teachers who I also spent a little bit of time with before I chose to start the 500-hour, but then also this whole supportive community that's here. So your residents, everyone that works here, and since I started the program, also the colleagues that I've met.
Well, one of the first things that struck me was that people come from all over the world to take teacher training here. And that speaks volumes for Himalayan Institute.
For over 45 years, we have empowered our dedicated students with the knowledge, wisdom, and confidence to share the gift of yoga with others. Experience the difference an authentic, world-class yoga education will make in your personal practice and professional career. Join us for yoga teacher training at the Himalayan Institute and experience a living tradition.
I find the Himalayan tradition particularly powerful in its approach, which incorporates the Tantric elements of practice. And by that I mean an understanding of the universe, and most particularly the human body being the locus of the divine, being saturated with divine bliss, and that all of our practices are with that understanding, and that the divine is present everywhere, in the moment, in this very moment, in your breath, in your body, in your mind, in your consciousness, in your awareness, in the world around you. And that if just by turning your head slightly in one direction or the other, having that experience, that realization, that awareness is possible for all of us. And that particular understanding of the nature of the divine, that particular pathway to the divine, is one of the things that is particularly helpful to me with the Institute tradition. And along with that, and with its understanding of the tantric elements of practice, come practical things of working with prana shakti, for example, of understanding how to work with the particular powers in the body, of understanding how to use your instincts, the things that most of us kind of cringe about, even our negative qualities. All of those things are seen in a much more balanced way from the tantric perspective, and with some distance, some perspective, able to use those particular aspects of our nature to achieve our purposes and our goals, of understanding things as being energy, and then being able to learn techniques or ways to work with our whatever energy resources we have, including the things that end up causing us trouble, like the instinctive urges that, if left to run amok on their own, end up derailing our forward momentum in life. So understanding in that context kind of takes the negativity out of certain aspects of what it means to be a human being. And I really appreciated that. The thing that's unique about our approach then is, in order to get mastery over those aspects of our nature, which are instinctive, perhaps also karmic, so they're unique to us in that sense. There are certain things we all share, of course, as human beings and creatures who are alive. But also then we have our own personal karmic inclinations that we learn how to manage, and we learn to manage those by working with that particular, how that energy is manifesting in us physically and mentally and emotionally. So, and we can think about that in terms of practice, with yoga practice, of beginning to work with the prana in the body from a holistic way, not just about you have to modify your behavior, which of course you do have to start watching your behavior. You have to stop thinking a certain way, which of course you also have to do, but also with just working with your pure pranic energy, your life force itself, of training that to work in a certain way. And that's what the practices of asana and pranayama do. And when we're able to start to create a new reality for ourselves with using that kind of energy and that kind of training, then these other things that are somewhat problematic are disempowered. So that approach to working through the pranic force, and its hub is really at the navel center. So we start to learn how to master the instinctive urges, the inclinations that kind of keep us alive, things like the self-preservation urge and the stress response and all of the nervous system things that go along with that, and how they get tied up in our likes and dislikes and our karmic preferences and our history and etc. All of that starts to make sense in a bigger context with the way we approach yoga. And we have a really practical way of working with it that doesn't involve beating ourselves up or a moralizing behavior attitude, but rather just a real practical approach to moving towards greater wholeness, greater health, greater happiness. And it's a very concrete steps for making that progress, and at the same time expanding our consciousness and our energy, and learning how to share those steps so they're not out of reach for any of us. And those are the things that I really appreciate about what we do.
In a world full of unrest, it's tempting to simply close our eyes. So close your eyes. You have the power to change the course of human history. Reconnect with your inner light. Create a brighter future. Join year-long meditation and discover how your contribution to a combined 1,000,008 hours of meditation can have a ripple effect that reaches far beyond those around you. Return humanity to our birthright of vitality and energy when you connect with thousands of like-minded practitioners in an unprecedented effort to heal a troubled world. Whether you are just beginning a meditation practice or have been a dedicated student for many years, no matter what tradition or background you come from, your help matters. With 3 ways to participate from anywhere in the world and a global community of concerned, compassionate people with a shared intention, year-long meditation provides the tools and support to make a lasting, positive impact on yourself and society. Year-long meditation starts with your personal meditation practice. YLM at Home is a free portal that makes it easy for you to develop and maintain your daily meditation practice. Set your meditation goals, hone your practice with hand-curated content, and track global progress toward our target of 1,000,008 hours of meditation. Join the collective consciousness, connect to the worldwide year-long meditation community, and become a positive force of change. YLM Online offers premium multimedia content designed to educate, inspire, and guide your meditation practice. Our digital collection of articles, classes, and workshops by world-renowned teachers will support you in finding greater depth and meaning in your home practice. Choose from these rich and varied resources to deepen your practice during year-long meditation. Immerse yourself in the potency of group practice, a powerful capstone for your year-long meditation experience. Our signature YLM in-person retreats and intensives are carefully designed to help maximize your efforts in year-long meditation. Choose the format, length, and teacher that work best for you, and don't miss the chance to connect with a community of like-minded seekers for a life-changing program.
Time and space cannot pose a barrier when the power of love and right attitude is on our side.
Join us for year-long meditation and see how the creation of abiding inner peace has the power to change the world. There has never been a better time than now. Join the practice, change the world.
What do accomplished masters like Buddha, Patanjali, and Shankaracharya share in common? One practice, Vishoka meditation. Meditation has become a commonplace word. We often hear about it in the media. There are thousands of different tools, apps, and videos that profess to teach this ancient science. But the truth is, many of these resources lack authenticity. So far in the West, partial techniques have been introduced as independent systems of meditation. This tendency compromises the efficacy of such meditative techniques, and meditators are left with limited results. For meditation to bear fruit and to experience a lasting transformation in our mind and emotional state, we need a systematic approach that is based on time-tested techniques and the realizations of masters that have walked the path and reached the highest goals of spiritual practice. Vishoka meditation is grounded in the direct experience of Buddha, Patanjali, and a long line of spiritual masters. It embodies the heart and soul of the Yoga Sutra, Shiva Sutra, and Lotus Sutra. There is a tendency to see the achievements of the great masters as somewhat otherworldly or unattainable, but even the greatest adepts, like Buddha, followed a systematic method to reach their sublime heights of enlightenment. Put simply, Vishoka meditation is that method. Vishoka meditation is not just a technique, rather a complete system to reclaim our inner radiance and train our mind to remain clear, focused, and joyful in all circumstances and situations in life. It is nothing less than a means to attain the highest state of realization. Handed down by an unbroken lineage of masters over the centuries, this sacred knowledge is now held and shared by Pandit Tigunait, the torchbearer of the Sri Vidya Himalayan tradition.
By bringing the breath and mind together, we accentuate the inherent power and mystery of mind, as well as we accentuate the inherent power and mystery of our breath. Both together start helping and serving each other.
During this seminar, you'll learn the dynamics of Vishoka meditation, training the body to fully cooperate with the mind, and mastering a sequence of practices that turn the mind inward to explore and find its inherent joy and brilliance. Learn the essential wisdom and spiritual origins of Vishoka meditation through the life stories of masters from the Himalayan tradition. Enjoy daily classes, practicums, and guided techniques to help you experientially learn each step of Vishoka meditation. Bathe in the sublime energy of group meditation practice in the spiritually vibrant, consecrated space of the Sri Vidya Shrine here in Honesdale. If you're ready to walk in the footsteps of the Masters, then join Pandit Tigunait for the revelation that is Vishoka meditation, the yoga of inner radiance.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's live stream with Pandit Tigunait, Tantric technique for unleashing Pranic Elixir. I'm Greg Capitola with the Himalayan Institute, and it's great to have you again here in this live stream format. I want to give you a few updates before we turn it over to Panditji. It's been a little over a month since the Institute had to unfortunately shut its doors to overnight guests and mission programs, peer review events, and private retreats. But we've been real fortunate to be able to stay in contact with you online. As a teaching faculty, we've really been excited about offering many more Facebook Lives, our normal Wisdom Library content. We're offering several webinars, 3 webinars just launched this week, and we have several more in store. So it's been energizing for us to be able to stay connected with you in that way. Our retreat center team, our residential team, remains just so dedicated to adhering to proper social distancing procedures as advised by the governor's office and the CDC. And we just miss you so much, and we're ready for you. Our retreat center team, our programming team, our Pure Rejuve Wellness Center, we just can't wait to open our doors again to you. At this point in time, we're scheduled to do that May 21st for Panditji's Vishoka meditation program, Memorial Day weekend. As I hope you know by now, we're going to conduct that program. Panditji will teach kind of, we say, rain or shine. So we really hope that you'll be able to join us in person, but we'll also offer Vishoka meditation in a live simulcast or webinar format. So if it's the case that travel restrictions or social distancing doesn't allow us to be together in the way that we hope, know that that program will be available to us all online. So again, we miss you very much, of course. On the other hand, we're excited to offer our teachings in the way that we can online, and we all look forward to seeing you very soon. So with that, thank you for joining us, and I'll turn it over to Panditji. Thanks so much.
Good morning and welcome. Dvaita Dvaita Mahamoha Sarvarikshapanakshamah Bhaswaniva Jayateko Ganesho Dutariyutah Pratibhayah Parolaso Nishakara Ivaparah Dutiyuktah Sajayato Batukastandavanvitah Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Once again, welcome. Not only just to this particular program, but to the Himalayan Institute and to the world which we are now trying to deal with. And for that, let me put on my glasses so that I can see you no matter where you are. That's the power of good glasses, which is clean and which perfectly fits our eyesight and enhances our vision. That's called Tantra. Today's topic is Tantric techniques for unleashing our Pranic Elixir. I'll begin this program with an anecdote. Just 44 years ago, when I was just came out from college, I met a Himalayan sage, Himalayan master, in a very mysterious place which is not very likely to meet a master. And that place was a 5-star hotel in New Delhi. It was called Akbar Hotel, which now has been turned into something else. This is where this Himalayan sage found me rather than I found that sage. This story I have explained, I have written in great detail in my own biography, as well as in the biography of Swami Rama of the Himalayas, the book entitled as At the 11th Hour. In a very mysterious way, I was initiated then and there in that 5-star hotel. And I call it mysterious because I did not know that I was being initiated into a long line of the Himalayan sages, Himalayan masters. Furthermore, the event that culminated into my initiation was such that from all scientific standpoints, I almost fainted. I had gone unconscious, which in a spiritual sense, it was the time of inner awakening. When after 20-30 minutes of being in that state of worldly wise unconscious and spiritually speaking fully conscious, when I got out of that state of awareness, state of consciousness, it took few minutes to reorient myself. after few initial conversation between me and my teacher, the master, I asked a question which was not a question but rather curiosity. And that is when this great sage told me something which has become a part of my constant awareness. He said, that are in full embrace with each other. It is from this Mother Nature, whose every nook and cranny is pervaded by consciousness. All living beings, even this whole universe comes out. That's what you are. That's what I am. That's what this whole world is all about. As time passed, this extremely compact, brief statement was further elaborated time to time, and to give you some idea which will help you understand the philosophical and metaphysical foundation of tantric wisdom, tantric techniques and tantric practices, to discover the very origin of life. And that discussion can be summarized in a very simple way. And that is that when we are born, we come with all the qualities, all the properties of our parents. And parents means here mother and father. In a more scientific language and in more accurate language, we come with all the properties of, all the qualities and characteristics of our life giver, whoever that is. In physical sense, we have mother and father. In physical sense, the so-called mother and father give us every bit of themselves to us. Which we call genetic contribution of our parents to us, to our life. And scientifically speaking, philosophically speaking, everything that is in our parents is in us. And yet, we are totally and independent individuals. Some of those properties and qualities and characteristics of our parents manifest in us in their fullness, and some of those qualities, characteristics, and attributes manifest in us partially. And some of those qualities and characteristics don't manifest at all. They remain dormant in us. But in principle, everything that is there in our parents is in us. Who is our most primordial parent? We should trace it. If we just trace our bloodline, for example, that's how normally we think of our genetic roots. Our parents had their parents had another set of parents. Then in last, God knows, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, million years, we'll end up somewhere if we do not determine something to be the origin of our genealogy, then we'll land into a fallacy called infinite regression. That reality is called Mother Nature, whose every nook and cranny is infused with its own intrinsic consciousness. It is in that regard our primordial mother resides in consciousness. Our father, our primordial father, the pure consciousness, resides in our mother, Prakriti, the primordial nature. This is what we are. According to Tantra Vidya, the science of Tantra, anything that is there in that primordial nature is in us. What is there in Mother Nature? Anything that we can imagine, anything that we can ever think of, anything that has ever existed before, anything that exists today, anything that will exist tomorrow or in the future, everything is there in Mother Nature. We are direct extension of our Mother Nature. Okay. This is called the fundamental philosophy of Tantra. And again, I'll remind, just as in principle, everything that exists in our parents exists in us, and yet we are so different from our parents. Despite the fact there are lots of things that are alike, that are identical to our parents, or that are similar to our parents, we are still quite different from our parents. Okay. But one thing is very important to understand, which is next point in the philosophy of Tantra, which is very important to understand so that we can really see what these tantric techniques really stand for and where these tantric techniques can lead us. Let us take an example of our conception. In nature, when, quote, our mother and father, when our parents come together, and right before conception takes place, billions of sparks of consciousness, having tiny sperms as locusts, rush to the egg. And when the egg and sperm combine, then something very amazing happens. That everything mixes, and yet the mitochondrial qualities, capacities, and properties of male principle sperm is absorbed into the egg. And I should retract a little bit. Again, one more principle before this is called survival of the fittest. There are millions of sperms competing to unite with the egg. And as soon as one succeeds, somehow there is an amazing message that other sperms, they drop their quest. Okay. This is called fundamental principle of survival of the fittest that precedes even our conception. And this particular principle continues to play its role throughout our life and even beyond. Therefore, number one, that we must understand the fundamental qualities, characteristics, attributes of our mother and father, that is primordial Prakriti and pure consciousness. Second principle, survival of the fittest. And therefore, what Tantra tells us, that do everything in your capacity, and your capacity is unlimited and infinite. Do everything in your capacity to rise to the status of being the fittest. Second, and the next point is that be prepared to acknowledge the power that lies in Prakriti, in nature, and that is its capacity to absorb, retain, and give back that power, strength that we need to live in this world, and that power, even in our modern medical science, is recognized as the fundamental, all-pervasive power that is so perfectly distributed at the tip of each and every cell. The mitochondria. That's why that is called Shakti, the power. With the help of knowledge, the intelligence whose most visible, articulate property is knowledge, understanding. Because we are a conscious being, we know a lot, but our knowledge really bears fruit only when there is capacity, when we are able to put that knowledge into practice. This message comes from this third principle, that Mother Nature is the highest, the biggest, and the grandest reservoir of all Shakti, the power, the capacity that we need in order to be whatever we are and in order to become whatever we wish to become. And this is what takes us to our current level of the problems that we are blessed with or we are faced with. And that is, on one hand, body is designed in such a unique way that any kind of disease out there, in the nature out there or here right in the body, has its cure right next to it, and yet we do not find it. It is law of nature that everything that exists in the world, yatha brahmande tatha pindande, anything that exists out there in the universe also exists here. Because this whole world is an extension of our primordial Mother Nature. We too are an extension of primordial Mother Nature. Perhaps this phenomenal world is our older siblings, firstborn child. The only difference between this big universe and us is that this world was created long before we were born as Pandit Rajmani or you as a Peter and, or whoever. All the qualities and characteristics, all the potentials that is there in the universe is in us, because the universe is direct extension of the nature, and we are also the direct extension of the nature. If there is a disease out there somewhere in any aspect of another nature, that disease is also right here in us. There is not any disease in the world that was in the past, that is in the present, and that will in future. There is no such disease in the world which already does not exist in us. Similarly, there is no disease in the world that is not accompanied by its own cure. The clearer we are in our mind, more connected we are to the source of pure consciousness, more connected we are to the Mother Nature, the clearer our understanding of our source of disease, source of pain and sorrow, source of our anger and hatred and fear and doubt, and the more clear we are in our own inner intelligence, more connected we are to our pure consciousness and the primordial Mother Nature, the greater the ability we have to find solutions. But with the passage of time, somehow we have lost that clarity. We have lost that connection. As a result, we are not in the position of being the master of our body. We are no longer in the position to be the master of our senses, the master of our vital organs. We are no longer, the master of our breath. We are no longer the master of our environment, atmosphere around us. We are no longer the master of our surroundings and the elements. We have become persons of limited capacity, limited knowledge. We have shrunk. When it happened, how it happened, that is, of course, it's not something that we discuss today. In fact, that is what the discussion philosophers have. We have a practical reality to deal with. And that practical reality is, how can we become strong, energetic, clear? How can we rediscover the sources of our stamina, agility? How can we awaken our inner healing force? How can we rejuvenate our body, mind, and senses? That is a living reality. That is a crucial thing that we are discovering here. According to masters, ancient masters, the answer to all these things lies in one thing. That is understanding the healing nature of our breath. Today, so much has happened in last, let's say, 1 century, and has given us unique opportunity as well as unique bad opportunity. What is that? Today we are quite far removed from Mother Nature. Look at the condition of our food, air, etc., and the problems caused by that. And therefore, we have circumstances which our ancestors did not have that as much as we have today. Today, we have become so accustomed to processed food, food that is loaded with sugar, salt, food that is loaded with very unhealthy fat. Our drink, look at the drink. In the name of clean water, we are drinking plastic water. Unlike our ancestors, today we are eating salts that contains somewhere 90% cases that contains microplastic. And I'm saying this thing on the basis of scientific articles that I have read. A research conducted by a university in South Korea found that 90% of the salt that we find in the market is contaminated by microplastic. And that is brand name salts I'm talking about, or the scientists are talking about. So what happens is, generation after generation after generation of consuming such food which is genetically modified, or the food that is deficient in trace minerals, the food that contains so much of pesticides, the food that grows on chemical fertilizers, the food that is an attempt to preserve it has so many preservatives. That kind of food is consumed by us. And rarely we realize, we see that this kind of food has turned our body into a landfill. And in that situation, today, we need to be extra alert, extra careful, more careful than our ancestors had to be. Therefore, the capacity of our GI tract, heart, kidney, liver, pancreas has definitely declined. Clear indication is that even a century ago, average healthy adult was taking somewhere 12 to 15 breaths per minute. That was the capacity of human body. The breathing is such a perfect way to measure the equilibrium of our body, the equanimity of our body, and the equanimous, balanced functions of our vital organs. A person suffering from, let's say, AIDS, HIV/AIDS, normally takes 25 to 30 breaths per minute. Today's healthy adult requires somewhere between 15 to 20 breaths per minute. A century ago, a healthy adult was breathing somewhere between 10 to 12 breaths per minute. So see here how far we have gone backward in terms of the healthy conditions of our vital organs and the functions of our vital organs. Therefore, It is in the same proportion we can very clearly assume we do not need so-called an evidence-based science and scientists to tell us whether or not our lung capacity is still the same as it was a century or 2 centuries ago. We do not need too many scientific discoveries to guide us. Scientific, studies to guide us. We do not need to tell us that is in proportion to our lung capacity, the capacity of our ejection fraction of our heart has also declined. Very simple thing is that today there is a great deal of wear and tear on our nervous system. Our parasympathetic nervous system is definitely has been greatly crushed under the enormous weight of our sympathetic nervous system, which is constantly being bombarded by our sensory inputs. This is the kind of body we have. Then it becomes even more complicated. That so many of the trace minerals are missing in our food, and thus they are missing in our diet. Or were people really that unhealthy 100 years ago, 200 years ago? No. There were very many healthy people too. But those healthy people not necessarily had lots of vitamins and supplements that we consume today. Despite so much effort, despite so much knowledge and availability of health supplements out there, still we are not that so healthy. The question could be, why? Because our ability to digest, assimilate, and transform those nutrients is not so great. Human body, by itself, through its own alchemy, through its own chemical process, does not manufacture, let's say, vitamin C, for example, or DHA, the memory juice that brain needs. It has to come from somewhere else. Okay. A goat's body has capacity to create by itself somewhere in the range of 15 to 17,000 milligrams of vitamin C per day. And whereas we need just maybe 1,000 milligrams, and it comes from different sources of our food. Oranges, lemon, God knows, so many other sources. The body is very amazing. It has capacity to create. It has capacity if it cannot create, and if the nature has not designed the bodies of certain species to create certain things, then it can come from somewhere else. That's what human life is all about. So the trace minerals are missing. And when we take it from outside sources, then that itself puts another level of wear and tear on our body. So what the Tantric masters are telling us, that in this situation, the very, very, very first place to start our quest for self-mastery is our own breath. And it is by using the power of our breath we can gain access to the pool of our pranic elixir, the elixir that supplies life to us. And it is in this context I must remind that I am aware of the introduction of yoga to the West. Even 40 years ago, 44 years ago, when I got involved in teaching yoga in the West, I was able to see that there was a higher, much more greater degree of integration of different aspects of yoga in yoga community. And by the time we reached 1990s, complete, step by step, methodically, categorically, people kept sanitizing yoga. And today we are left with Hatha yoga, Asana yoga, and even Asana yoga hardly has anything to do with the breathing. Which is very painful to say that kind of yoga has limited effect on our body and mind. Because yoga is not set of exercise. Yoga is something that helps you prepare your body to become very good container for your mind. And the body and mind together can become a good container for consciousness. And this way, the whole process of yoga is to allow the consciousness to discover its partner, that is Mother Nature. Today, the system of yoga is not really helping our mother and father to be together. Now, this is where Tantra comes in. And that is, bring back the practices of pranayama, and especially such practices of pranayama which strengthen our abdominal cavity, the organs in the surrounding, in the area of our navel center, that which energizes, heals, and nurtures our visceral organs. Those kinds of pranayama techniques, those kinds of breathing exercises got to be fully united with our yoga system. It is now even more crucial than ever before. As I told you, our body is depleted. Our organs are depleted. Our nervous system is depleted. And due to the sensory onslaught, our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system are not given the opportunity to do their work in a balanced way. Therefore, either there is more secretion of hormones or there is less secretion. Or sometimes there is too much secretion and the body itself is not able to metabolize it. And therefore, so many of our chemicals and hormones that are secreted inside us, they themselves become source of toxins. They themselves turn into armor. And our kidney is having difficulty. Our liver is having difficulty to get rid of it. Our skin is having difficulty to get rid of it. Result is all these so-called fancy diseases that we have. That is depression, low blood pressure, high blood pressure, the heart problem, this problem, that problem. There is no end to it. And for all that, we are looking for cure in the outside world. I'm not saying that don't look for any help in the outside world. Outside world is part of Mother Nature too, and the scientific mind and scientific discoveries are also great gifts of Mother Nature and intelligence. No doubt about it. But here Tantric technique says that first, gain access to your own body. And you gain access to your body by awakening the forces of your breath and by employing the forces of your breath to awaken the forces of your own mind. And thus mind and the breath, they begin to work together in complete unison. So the very fundamental principle of Tantra Vidya, the science and the practice of Tantra, is awaken your inner intelligence, the intelligence that Mother Nature has naturally deposited in our body, breath, mind, and consciousness. Journey begins with breathing exercises. And the Hatha Yoga and any other practices find their nourishment, find their refinement, find their enhancement by making the best use of awakened power of our breath. That is one thing. And this is how we can gently bring our body and bodily functions to a relatively much more calmer and more balanced state. And thus, our nervous system, especially the autonomic nervous system, comes back to a greater state of balance. And from there, whole process of bringing the functions of our vital organs is brought back to a state of balance. The result will be that whatever food we eat will be able to digest and assimilate. Also, our senses will become much more acutely aware of what is good for us and what is not good for us. Today, we are more impressed by so-called a healthy product because of the story that goes with it. So quite often, in this consumer-driven economy, or let's say culture, we are consuming a story, and product is actually a part of that story, rather than the story being part of the product. That is how our senses have become so dull. Our power of discrimination has declined. A story that is created by people outside there in the world, that story has to convince us that what is good for us and what is not good for us, and whereas Mother Nature has designed our senses of seeing, tasting, touching, and most importantly, our mind, that we have a spontaneous way of knowing what is good for us and what is not good for us. There is definitely a great decline in our power of discernment. Because for so many years, we have outsourced the function of our discernment and discrimination to somebody else outside us. As soon as we become aware of our pranic pool inside us, mind will get back its intrinsic clarity, focus, and power of discernment. And then mind will start sharing that clarity, focus, and discernment with our body and vital organs. Do you remember this famous phrase called mind over matter? But today mind over matter phenomena is really completely gone almost, because mind itself is not so well nourished. So tantric techniques are designed to make the best use of that is there. All that is there in our body, in our senses, in our surrounding, to make the best use of that, to rediscover and awaken the inherent properties of our mind and employ those inherent properties of mind to guide the functions of our body. That is how we get back to this wonderful phrase called mind over matter. Tantric techniques also tells us one thing, that we are part of nature. We are an extension of nature. Our health and well-being is fully dependent on the health and well-being of the nature outside us. Therefore, other important thing, in addition to seeking and finding our personal enlightenment and personal empowerment, is our spiritual responsibility to contribute to the health and healing of nature outside us. And simple reason is that our health and well-being totally depends on the health and well-being of the environment in which we live, be it our family environment, be it the real environment that reflects the mother nature. And it is in this regard, tantric techniques are employed to awaken the intrinsic intelligence in the mother nature, in the nature outside us. Those techniques normally require a group practice, where individually inspired sadhakas, the practitioners, yogis, join hands with each other and unite their intention to help each other, unite their intention to resolve, to do something for Mother Nature. And here I'm not talking about nature in terms of our rivers and mountains and the ocean. Of course, they are part of nature, but it's much more subtle than that. The greatest service, according to the tantric masters, we can render to the world is figuring out how to minimize fear, anger, hatred, jealousy, greed, indecisiveness, hopelessness, helplessness, feeling of unworthiness in the world of which we are a part. It is very, very, very difficult to find our personal enlightenment while living in a world which is saturated with these negative tendencies. You can clearly see the problems we might face one day when our society becomes even more contaminated with fear. In this regard, I do not need to remind you what is happening in the world. Whether it's COVID-19 or no COVID-19, fear had been there. Anger has been there. Violence has been there. A calamity like COVID-19 is a trigger point Of course, it is very, very painful to suffer from this highly infectious disease and painful disease. But it is also very important to reflect on one thing, that when there is so much fear, when there is so much grief, so much sorrow, why in the world people suddenly become inspired to buy more guns? When we are already suffering from this kind of almost unavoidable situation of COVID-19, why in the world we need to accelerate our domestic violence? Okay. Why in the world we gather our strength and start pointing our fingers on others? Why in the world we suddenly become so active in promoting religious, ethnic, and political conflict and disputes? Isn't that we can do something better? And yet, we get more active in doing something negative, destructive, and ugly. Why? Because fundamentals are already there. And all those so-called fundamental negative tendencies and forces, they are looking for an opportunity, they are looking for an excuse. They just wake up. It is therefore in this regard, these great masters in the past concluded long time ago that our duty, our responsibility to minimize anger, hatred, jealousy, greed, attachment, desire in our external world is never less important than finding our inner peace, which totally depends on acquiring freedom from fear, anger, hatred, jealousy, greed in our personal life. Our personal life and impersonal life are fully connected to each other. It is in this regard I will remind you that I, almost 8-9 months ago, I inspired people to undertake this year-long meditation, although I had no idea that COVID-19 is going to happen. But what I was fully aware of, that there was a great deal of anger and violence out there, a great deal of uncertainty and a great deal of fear was there. I did not know when and where and in what form all that anger, violence, fear, etc. is going to explode. I did not know that. And even today I do not need to know that. What definitely we need to do is to do something about it. Create a collective consciousness strong enough to counteract, to nullify all that chaos that is there in the world. It is in that respect I inspired people to undertake year-long meditation. Then I started focusing from last year, from July 16 and onward. Those who were somewhat more serious, I started teaching the 16 mantras collectively known as Sri Sukta. So many of you are doing it. Please, I inspire, do it more and more and more. And it is because Sri Sukta and those 16 mantras have the capacity to collect, unite and collect the wonderful, positive intentions that thousands of meditators all over the world have. the technique for attracting the positive, constructive, auspicious, and benevolent forces, whether they are awakened through human efforts or which are already awakened by the design of nature. There are practices which have capacity to attract those positive, constructive, benevolent forces. And the practice of Sri Sukta plays the central role in designing that particular practice. That practice is called Mahapushti Yaga. The yaga, the practice, the group practice of great nourishment, great nurturance. All of us, we need it. We need it for our own personal wellness, and we need it for our impersonal collective wellness. World is in dire need of that. Therefore, I inspire you, I urge you to do some breathing exercises. Start helping and serving and loving and caring your lungs and hearts and nervous system. Do relaxation. Please go join our wisdom blog. Please go into our wisdom library. There's so much material, and our entire faculty is now working hard day and night, creating more and more content which focuses on reviving our nervous system, calming down our nervous system, awakening the forces of pranic force. There are so many faculties, including myself, are trying our best to be in your service. This is time that we must help ourselves. We must take care of ourselves, and we must help and take care of others. And collectively, we must recharge the battery of much bigger part of nature, which is constantly providing nourishment to us. But however, that nourishment is so deficient in its nutrients today. Mother Nature, the air, the fire, and collective consciousness has to be further nourished so that we start thinking in a more positive way. And positive thinking can be measured very, very easily. That how less fearful we are, how inspired we are, how enthusiastic we are. No? What is the level of our hope in future? Do we still remember that there is something called divine providence? Do we still remember that when we were completely helpless, growing as a fetus, there was someone to help us and take care of us? Do we still remember that when we were kids, we got so many times we got in trouble, and somehow there was a very subtle, invisible force which always came forward to help us, guide us, protect us? How many of us are constantly aware of that force? Answer is not very many of us. We are so caught in our day-to-day concerns that the underlying force that helps us move forward has been forgotten. So practices which focus on pranayama techniques, allowing the pranic elixir to be freed, to unleashed, those practices are something for our personal growth and development. The practices like Mahapushti Yaga, which I'm mentioning, is a practice which through God's grace, we have a good, what you call critical mass to support, is the practice that is to be undertaken in order to bring back all that love, care, and spirit of service into our society. And thereby, we have to rebuild a society which is not consumed by fear and violence, cruelty, self-righteousness, and sense of hopelessness. This is the message. And with this message, I invite you to please take advantage of all that is there that we are offering. And most importantly, if you are interested in learning systematically and methodically the entire range of pranayama, which automatically brings perfection to your yoga practice, and which automatically leads you to a place where you begin to meditate, you begin to relax, you begin to discover and reflect on your own strengths and weaknesses. Those kinds of practices are part of this Visoka meditation. And with that, will become a very good container as well as a conduit to deliver that Shakti, the power that we need in order to drive away fear, doubt, anger, violence, and hopelessness from our society, from our culture, and from this wonderful world. God bless you all.